Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa salatu wa salamu ala ashrafil anbiya wal mursaleen. Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Tasliman kathiran kathira. Amma ba'du, my dear brothers and sisters, in our but in our lesson on Akhlaaq of the Ummati of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, I come to the last of the ayat of Surah Al-Furqan relating to Al-Ibadur Rahman, which we have been following. And this is where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. وَالَّذِينَ يَقُولُونَ رَبَّنَا هَبْ لَنَا مِنْ أَزْوَاجِنَا وَذُرِّيَّاتِنَا قُرَّةَ أَعْيُنٍ وَجَعَلْنَا لِلْمُتَّقِينَ إِمَامًا أُولَئِكَ يُجْزَوْنَ الْغُرْفَةَ بِمَا صَبَرُوا وَيُلَقَّوْنَ فِيهَا تَحِيَّةً وَسَلَامًا خالدين فيها حسنت مستقر ومقامة. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned, and before we go there, I want to remind you and myself that the purpose of all these classes is for us to implement Islam in our lives, for us to learn how to live Islam. Not merely talk about Islam, but to actually practice Islam in our lives. The most powerful dawah, the most powerful example, the most powerful invitation to Islam is through our akhlaq, is through our manners, our dealings, the way we live ourselves and the way we treat others. This is the most powerful, the most important aspect of Islam. And that's why I remind myself and you, let us focus on that over and above everything else. The rest of it is understood in terms of our personal practice of the deen. Obviously, this does not mean that we are trying to detract from the importance of the creed, the aqidah, what we believe, or the importance of ibadat, the acts of formal worship. These are things which go without saying. We don't have to say that. Obviously, if a person doesn't even believe in the right thing, if a person's belief is not correct according to the Islam that Rasulullah brought, which is a belief that is free from all shirk, a belief that is free from ascribing partners to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in any way or form, and a belief that is based on the obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and not on His disobedience. And as far as the ibadat, the fara'id, what Allah has made compulsory on us is concerned, there is no doubt about the fact, there is no dispute about the fact that these fara'id, these things which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made incumbent upon us must be fulfilled without any delay and without any misunderstanding about it. There is no question of not fulfilling them. They have to be fulfilled, and they must be fulfilled in the best possible way at their appointed times. So whether it is Salah, whether it is fasting, whether it is zakat, whether it is Hajj, all of these have to be fulfilled, and there is no give and take in that. This is what Allah has made incumbent upon us, and therefore, as Muslims, as people who submit to the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we accept it and we say, Alhamdulillah, that Allah gave us this, and we completely and totally try to fulfill those fara'id to the best of our ability, knowing that in that lies our own benefit, and in that lies goodness for us in this life as well as in the life of the hereafter. Now, we are looking at something after that, which is how do we live our lives, how do we treat others, how do we treat people within our own families, which is our own wives, children, husband, and so on, and how we treat extended families, relatives, parents, grandparents, whoever, aunts, uncles, and how we treat our neighbors, irrespective of whether they are Muslim or not. All of this together. Now, in that, we have been seeing a series of and studying a series of ayat of the Quran and the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we come to these now, which is in Surah Al-Furqan, the ayat 74, 75 and 76, which I recited for you, which mean, and those who say, our Rabb bestow on us from our azwaj, from our wives and our offspring, who will be the comfort of our eyes and make us leaders for the muttaqun. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioning here and saying that this is what the people who believe, this is what they say, that, oh Allah, Rabbana hablana min azwajina wa dhurriyatina. Oh Allah, from our azwaj, from our spouses, and bestow on us, and from our offspring, bestow on us those who will be the comfort of our eyes and make us leaders for the muttaqun. Those will be rewarded with the highest place in Jannah because of their patience. Therein they shall be met with greetings and the word of peace and respect. Abiding therein, and excellent it is an abode as a place to dwell, place to be in. Now this is the meaning of the 3 ayat. Now the important thing here is that to understand a few things. First and foremost, to understand that here Allah is not teaching us merely to make dua to have children. Right? Allah is not saying bestow on us children. Allah is saying bestow on us from our spouses and our offspring those who will be a comfort to our eyes and make us leaders for the muttaqun. So the focus here is on leaving a legacy of honor, on sadaqatul jariyah, and this has always been the focus of the Anbiya alayhimus salam, and of all those who love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that their work must not stop. The work of the Dawat of Islam must continue after they have gone. This has been and always has been the focus, this was and always has been the focus of the Anbiya alayhimus salam, and this also was is the focus of the Salihun, all the people who love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in 2 places du'as made by His Anbiya for children. One is the dua of Zakaria alayhi salam, which we know, where he made this dua. He said, I am old, I am weak, my bones are weak, my wife is beyond the age of childbirth, but please give me an heir to carry on my work. And the other dua is the famous dua of Ibrahim alayhi salam, where Ibrahim alayhi salam made the same dua for an heir in order that he might be able to carry his work forward. And so these are the 2 places that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned for us where His Anbiya alayhimus salam made dua for an heir. Now, important thing to understand here, as I've said earlier just now, that it's not just a matter of having children. Now, this is a particularly sensitive kind of topic because people get in our cultures, for example, we have this tendency where we think that children by themselves are a blessing. And people say, well, I have been blessed with a child. People who do not have children, others look upon them as if there is something wrong with them, that they are somehow unlucky or accursed or something. But just think about this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not call children a blessing. Right? There is nowhere in the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says as a general statement that children are a blessing. On the other hand, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, for example in Surah Al-Taghabun, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu inna min azwajikum wa awladikum aduwwan lakum فَاحْذَرُوهُمْ وَإِن تَعْفُوا وَتَصْفَحُوا وَتَغْفِرُوا فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, which means, O you who believe, beware that some of your spouses and your children are actually your enemies. So beware of them. But if you pardon their faults, and if you are forbearing, and you have sabr and you forgive, then behold, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be much forgiving and a dispenser of rahmah, of mercy. It is very important to understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioning your spouses and children, so this is wives and husband and children, as Allah said, as enemies, right? I mean, these are, they can be your enemies. Now, by enemies, first of all, this does not mean that every wife, every husband, every child is an enemy. No, it just means that the ayah is not referring specifically to people. For example, if you take the Salafus Salihin, if you take the Sahaba and so on and so forth, there are so many cases of some very, very beautiful marriages, very beautiful husbands and wives and children who were really, as Allah mentioned in another place, Al-Mu'minuna wal-Mu'minat ba'duhum ala ba'd. Allah said that the believers, men and women, are helpers of one another. So that is there. But in generally speaking, Allah is saying that these are your enemies. Now, by enemies, we have to see it in the context where we have to look at the purpose of our existence. Why do we exist? We exist to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because Allah said, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. Allah said, I have not created the jinn and the human beings for anything other than my worship. So when the worship of Allah, meaning obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is the purpose of creation, what are the things that can take us away from the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Now, your spouses and children are not the only things. I wish it was as simple as that. It's not. There are other things also. But one of the major factors is the spouses and children. Many people, if they didn't have to cater to the whims and fancies and desires and demands of their families, perhaps one can assume that they would not be taking bribes. They would not have indulged in something haram. They would not probably have borrowed money to buy gadgets or to buy, a more expensive car, or to buy a more expensive house and things like this, or even to put money in their business because they needed more income. They could have lived lives which were simpler, which were less complicated and less expensive, right? There is a great benefit, there is a great value in simplicity. But to be able to live a simple life, nowadays it's become quite fashionable to write articles and read articles about minimalist way of living and thinking, minimalist furnishing in houses and so on and so forth. But to be able to do that, something else has to become minimalist before that, and that is your own desires. Now, obviously, if you are alone or if it's just two people, then the minimizing of desires and so on is to that extent simpler. But if there are, instead of two people, if there are 3, 4, 5, then obviously there are many more things to take care of, many more things to deal with. Also, depending on circumstances, your age, your friend circle, this, that, many people fall into wrongdoing because of the demands of their families. In another place in Surah Al-Anfal, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّمَا أَمْوَالُكُمْ وَأَوْلَادُكُمْ فِتْنَةٌ وَأَنَّ اللَّهَ عِنْدَهُ أَجْرٌ عَظِيمٌ. Allah said, and know that your worldly goods and your children are a fitna, they are a trial, they are a temptation for you, and that with Allah is a tremendous reward. Again, In another place, in Surah Taghabun again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, إِنَّمَا أَمْوَالُكُمْ وَأَوْلَادُكُمْ فِتْنَةٌ وَاللَّهُ عِنْدَهُ أَجْرٌ عَظِيمٌ. Again, same meaning. Allah said, your goods and your children are a trial and a temptation, whereas with Allah there is tremendous reward. So, please don't fall into this trap where you start thinking that children by themselves are a blessing and that those who don't have children are not blessed. No, please. Allah didn't call it a blessing. Allah called it the opposite. So effectively, people who do have children, what did they have? What do they have? They have a fitrah. They have a test, and perhaps their children and their spouses are their enemies. So they need to be specially careful, and they need to ensure, by careful I mean they need to ensure that they do the tarbiyah of their children so well that those children become then a means of them attaining Jannah, which is the ayat we talked about, where they said, give us children who will be qurratul ayn, who will be the coolness of our eyes. The coolness of our eyes. And make us leaders of the muttaqun. So I want to focus on this whole issue of tarbiyat of children. It's absolutely critical if you want them to become a means of goodness for you. Let me ask you, each one of you, let me ask you a simple question. And I want you to answer it for yourself. How many of you did you today in tahajjud make dua for your parents and your grandparents? Right? In tahajjud, did you make dua for your parents and your grandparents today? And don't count the duas that we make in tashahhud. Right? رَبَّنَا اغْفِرْ لِي وَلِوَالِدَيَّ وَلِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ يَوْمَ يَقُومُ الْحِسَابُ. No. Don't count that. That's a routine thing we do it in. I'm talking about specifically. Oh Allah, forgive my parents. If they have passed away, oh Allah, fill their qubur with nur. Oh Allah, give them Jannah. Grandparents, same thing. Did you do that? You know why I'm asking you? I'm asking you because your parents are literally the same generation. I mean, you can say they are one generation before you, but you live together, obviously. And your grandparents are one generation away. Now think about this, that if you did not make dua for your parents and your grandparents, what hope do you have that your children will make dua for you? On what basis? So you are spending your whole life worrying about and working for them and slogging and saving money and doing without this and doing without that, so that your children can have this and can have that and so on and so forth. And when you're dead and gone, if you raise children who do not even make dua for you, then what was the purpose of your life? And how were those children a blessing for you? And I'm asking you to ask yourself this question because you are somebody's child. And if you do not make dua for your parents, I will guarantee you that your children are not going to make dua for you. Because if you are not making dua for your parents, then you haven't taught them to make dua for you. How will they make dua for you? Having children or not having children is not a matter of blessing or no blessing. It's how you raise those children. Children by themselves, Allah called them a test. That we are sure of because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said this. Whether that test becomes a blessing or whether that test becomes a curse depends on you, depends on the parents. The way you raise your children, those children will be a test for you, will be a curse for you, or they will be a blessing for you. Now, you may be among those, and I know people like this, who, alhamdulillah, they did everything possible to raise their children well. Right? No stone was left unturned. They brought them up well, they gave them ethics, values, they introduced them to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, The parents were practicing Muslims. The children also learned everything about the deen. They used to practice deen. Then later on, they go to different places. They fall in with bad company. They are led astray, and then Allah knows whatever happens to them. Now, believe me, in that case, you as the parent are not responsible. Inshallah, you are bari'u zimma. Allah will not hold you responsible. You will not be punished. Those children, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will still reward you because you did your best to raise those children as good Muslims. So may Allah protect you and me from such things. But if that happens to somebody, or if that happens to you, may Allah protect you, then don't feel bad about that. Qadar Allah. We don't know what that child went through. We don't know when the child grew up, as a man, as a woman, what kind of choices they made. We still do, and we must continue to pray for guidance for them. As long as you are alive as a parent, keep on praying for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can guide anybody at any age, at any level, and we must continue to pray for guidance for them. We must continue to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive them. But whatever happens, whatever is their qadar, that is their qadar. The parents who did their best to raise their children properly and well will not be held accountable, inshallah, if those children go bad after they have become adults. But if in the beginning itself the parents were at fault, the parents did not do what they were supposed to do, on the contrary, they did the opposite, then the parents are at fault, and then the children's deeds will be the means of grief for those parents. So like we have Sadaqatul Jari, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, if somebody teaches something good to someone and that person continues, Allah will give the reward of that good deed to the person who was the first one who initiated this, as long as this good deed is done. And vice versa, if somebody initiates something bad and that is repeated and repeated generation after generation, the person who initiated that deed will get the, within quotes, reward of that evil. We ask Allah to save us from this, right? So please be very sure about that as far as the children are concerned, that we raise good children. And we teach them the right things so that they become Sadaqatul Jariyah, they become the means of carrying on goodness for us long after we are gone. Leave behind a legacy of honor that inshallah you will be remembered for, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward you for. And if somebody is there in your family who does not have children, don't give them a hard time, don't cast aspersions on them, don't waste your time with ghibah with regard to those people and the fact that they don't have children. That is not a in Islam, that is not a black mark, or it's not a something negative on anybody. Now we come also to the dua of Ibrahim alayhi salam, and he made the same dua where he said, Rabbana inni askantu min dhurriyati biwadin ghayri zi zar'in inda baytika al-muharrami Rabbana liyuqimu as-salah faj'al afidatan min an-nas tahwi ilayhim warzuqhum min ath-thamarati la'allahum yashkurun. Ibrahim alayhi salam said, O my Rabb, O our Rabb, I have made some of my offspring to dwell in an uncultivable valley by your sacred house, in order, our Rabb, that they may establish a Salah. Now see where he begins. He begins with the establishment of Salah. Because he knows, as the Nabi of Allah, as Khalilullah, as the father of the Anbiya, he knows that the purpose of existence of the human being must be satisfied. That is the very reason Allah created us, and that therefore comes above and beyond and over everything and anything else. You say, why did you bring them here? So that they may establish your ibadah here. لِيُقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةِ, so that they may establish Salah. Right? If the purpose of life is not being fulfilled, then if nothing else matters. That's why, seriously, because we are on the subject of children, If I ask you to make a list of the needs of your children, that supposing I tell you, look, give me a list, what do your children really need? And do it in an order of priority also. So number one, most important is this. I don't know how many of you, I know that almost everyone will list, for example, education as a very important critical need. You will list probably getting a good job, having a good career, whether it's in business or employment or whatever. You will list good health, freedom from sickness. You will probably list getting a good spouse, right? I'm sure you will list children as things which are very critical for the benefit of your child. How many of you will list having a pure heart, tazkiyatun nafs, as a critical need of your child? Right? How many of you? And remember, I'm not even talking about, I'm mentioning tazkiyatun nafs along with a whole list of other things. Whereas, really and seriously speaking, tazkiyatun nafs should be the number one thing. I'm not even going there. I'm just saying, will it be somewhere on this list? When you're making this list of critical needs of the child, will purity of the soul, purity of the heart, a connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a heart that is filled with the glory and majesty and nur of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a heart that is filled with the muhabbat of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, is this somewhere on this list? Ask yourself. And this is the reason why we are created. So if the very reason why we were created is not even on the list of critical things that you want for your child, number one, you are not making dua for it. Number two, you are not making any effort for it. So you are happy where you give some pittance to the imam of your local mosque to come and teach your children how to read Quran Nazira just by looking at it. Whether he understands it, doesn't understand it, doesn't matter. Or if you live in America, you take him to Sunday school. Ajib, they can't even change the name of the thing. Yeah? You take him to Sunday school, he sits there in the class, he gets some level of education, whatever it is. And you are happy with that. You are happy with that. That is the reason why we have situations where if a boy wants to follow the sunnah of Rasulullah and keep a beard, the people who stop him are his own family, his own father, his own mother. They will say, no, you look too old, or people will think you are an extremist. If a Sikh boy wants to keep a beard, his parents don't tell him people will think you are an extremist. They say that is the sign of being a Sikh. But a Muslim boy is told by his parents, don't keep a beard because of this. Even though historically speaking, the Sikhs got the beard from the Muslims. Guru Nanak, the founder of the Sikh religion, he liked the descriptions of the appearance of Rasulullah so much that he made that appearance mandatory for his people. His beard, turban, a kurta, shirt which is long, goes beneath the knees, and the izar, the pajama, the trousers, above the ankles. He made this compulsory on his people, on his followers. Where did he get that from? He got it from the Muslims. He was a devotee of Baba Farid Shakarganj Rahmatullah Alayh, who was way before his time. But Baba Farid Shakarganj Rahmatullah Alayh was also Punjabi, and he was the first person who actually he actually I don't know what's the best word of saying that, but he made Punjabi into a serious language. by writing poetry in Punjabi, in Gurmukhi, and by writing, words of wisdom. And Guru Nanak actually took a lot of those into the Guru Granth Sahib, which is the holy books of the Sikhs, which was written by Guru Nanak. And that has a lot of the words of Baba Farid Shakarganj Rahmatullah Ali. So he got it from there. He loved this appearance of the Muslim, which is the appearance of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. But today we live in a world where when the boy wants to adopt the appearance of the Muslim, the people to discourage him are his own parents. If the girl wants to put on a hijab, the mother will tell her, don't wear hijab, you won't get married. She should tell her, I will not marry a man who wants a wife who does not wear a hijab. Why would I want to marry? Why would I want to marry a man who does not want his Muslim wife to wear a hijab? So I'm not interested. If there is, I won't get married. No, I won't get married to a man who is insisting on disobeying Allah. Now, why would I want to marry a man like that anyway? Huh? Why would I want to get married to a man like that anyway? I want to get married to a man who is obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who follows the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. My brothers and sisters, it's very important to understand this, because here we are saying that these people make dua that, oh Allah, give us children, and from our spouses and our children, give us people who we can be proud of, who we look at them and we feel so nice, they are the coolness of our eyes. And walil muttaqeen imama, and they will be the imams of the muttaqeen. Make us among the leaders of the muttaqeen and make them among the leaders of the muttaqeen. This is the dua they are making. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives this huge bashar. Allah said that these are the people who will not only will they be in Jannah, but in the ghurfa. They will be in the highest place in Jannatul Firdaus, inshallah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala this for all of us, inshallah. To be in the highest place in Jannatul Firdaus in the company of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. My father used to make this dua, Ya Allah, give me the ghurfa. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give it to him, inshallah. My father loved Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He was devoted to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He was very faithful to his Rabb Jalla Jalaluhu. And there is nobody who values faithfulness more than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. My brothers and sisters, it is very important for us to raise children correctly. It is not for nothing that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that the Jannah of the person is beneath the feet of the mother. Right? It's not just an accidental thing, just so happens. No. It's because what the mother does for the child. And I'm not talking about just the physical thing of changing nappies and feeding him. No. I am talking about the spiritual development of the child. What does the mother do for the spiritual development of the child? What does the father do for the spiritual development of the child? My brothers and sisters, Ibrahim alayhi salam made this dua, which we also read in Salah. Rabbi jalni muqima salati wa min dhurriyati. Rabbana wa taqabbal dua. O my Rabb, make me one who establishes the Salah, and also from my offspring, our Rabb, and accept my dua. Right? My brothers and sisters, really seriously ask this question for ourselves. We are seeing here du'as which are not just talking about establishment of Salah as a good thing to do. Yes, we should do that. It is nice. It's talking about this as the very purpose of our existence. Make me the one who establishes Salah. Now, why is it so difficult? Why are we surprised? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, as I mentioned in Surah Zariyat, the ayat, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, I have not created the jinn and the human beings for anything other than my ibadah. So if we say, and this is what Allah taught us through His Anbiya alayhi salam, if we say that the purpose of my life is to establish a Salah, we say, Labbaik, Alhamdulillah. That is a fact. Indeed, that is the purpose of my existence. That is how it should be. Right? Now, brothers and sisters, really, seriously, let us examine, let us ask ourselves this question. And say that we follow a religion where the Anbiya alayhimus salam, those who brought this religion to us, who taught us this religion, Ibrahim alayhi salam, who Allah mentioned in the Quran, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the Quran, and who we got the religion directly from, they all taught us this lesson. And that lesson is, live your life for the purpose of pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So everything we judge must be on that basis. Does it please Allah? So if it pleases Allah, we do it. If it doesn't please Allah, we don't do it. But let's look at our own lives today and see what is it we do. That's the reason why we have to ask this question. And the question is Allah real? Now it sounds like a stupid question, because as a Muslim, we say, of course Allah is real. I mean, why am I doing Salah? Why am I fasting in Ramadan? Why do I go for Hajj? Why do I pay Zakat? Because Allah is real. But let me ask you this question a little bit differently. As I'm sitting here and talking to you, the temperature outside here is minus 15. Right? Now I've got a bird feeder there. And one of the greatest delights I take in my life here in America is to watch those little birds, little ones, tiny like this, at the feeder in this weather. In minus 15, they hide in the bushes and so on and so forth. And I don't know how much can you hide, because the weather report says temperature is minus 15, maximum minus 7, minimum minus 15, and there's a wind chill factor where it makes it feels like minus 28. Now to me all of these are numbers, because I am sitting inside a beautifully heated home. But these birds outside, they are in those bushes. Their Rabb looks after them, He protects them. At that minus whatever they are feeling, they don't freeze and drop dead. So I make sure that the feeder has the feed in it, has the seeds, black sunflower seeds. I'm talking about, is Allah real? Now, to me, if you want to say, well, just now I told you the temperature outside is minus 15. Is it real? Is that real to me? You know how you will know? You will know if you watch me going out to get the feeder and to fill the feed in it. When I step out of the house, am I stepping out in a t-shirt? Or am I ensuring that I have a beanie on my head, that I am wearing a jacket, I am wearing closed shoes, and so on and so forth? Ensuring that I am well protected from that cold, because that cold can kill. That cold can make you very sick. When you know something is real, then your actions demonstrate that knowledge. Your actions demonstrate whether you think that thing is real or not. Ta'ala Allahu al-amthal, when we are talking about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is Allah real? Is the meeting with Him real? His Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, Antal Haqq. O Allah, you are the Haqq, you are the truth. Wa liqa'uka haqq. And the meeting with you is true. Wa jannatu haqq. And your Jannah is true. Wa nar haqq. Wa naru haqq. The fire is true. Wa Nabiyuna Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam haqq. And your Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is haqq. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, Qulil haqqu min rabbikum. So, O Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, say that your Rabb is the truth, is haqq. I believe this, and I know you believe this. Let's ask ourselves, if we look at our lives, what in my life is evidence that I believe that Allah is real and that my meeting with Allah is real? Because just like the example I gave you, if I say the temperature outside is minus 15, it's bitterly cold, it is dangerously cold, and I'm walking out there in a pair of shorts and a t-shirt, then you're saying, no, he doesn't really believe that. He does not really believe that. Because if he believes it, then how does he walk out there without proper clothing? So if somebody is looking and Allah is looking, Allah's angels are looking, if they look at my life, do they see evidence of this belief? Antal haqq. O Allah, you are haqq. Wa liqa'uka haqq. And the meeting with you is haqq. Do they see that belief or not? I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be pleased with you and never to be displeased. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make our lives in line with how He wants us to live and to take us in that state. وصلى الله على نبي الكريم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.